Hello, my name is Taylor Rose, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything reading and writing. Today we are going to talk about some fresh off the pressed book community drama. A basic setup of the situation is that an author sent out ARCs for her book. After the book came out, one of the people who received the ARC, so one of the ARC readers, did publish their review that contained screenshots of AI prompts that were left inside the text of the ARC. And since then, the entire situation has blown up. Here's my disclaimer. These are my thoughts and opinions about publicly available posts on social media. I'm not talking about anything that is not readily available for any viewer to also go find online. If you are friend, family, fan of anyone or anything I'm discussing in this video, I'll see you in the next one. Going over some of the evidence, shall we say. This post here by the Brian Penny. This lady who left multiple ChatGPT prompts in a book she sent to reviewers and then crashed out and has been throwing a tantrum for weeks over it. Yikes. The first response is from S.L. McGinnis, author. Kate has shown her process. She does not use AI to write her books. She uses it to help edit. She has also shown multiple videos of her process and how she isn't using generative AI to write anything. Alyssa responds, AI assisted is still AI. They're taking the words from ChatGPT and putting into her own words, but using those revisions in her books, which is still considered stealing from other writers. It's required for you to disclose to your readers or new readers that you use that so readers can have a choice instead of being blindsided. I agree with this post. The unfortunate reality is, as much as you would like it to be, people probably aren't on social media before they read your book. So even if on your TikTok or your Instagram account, you post about your editing process with AI, most people aren't ever going to see that post. They're never going to see that content or that disclaimer because they're looking at the book they're able to buy, the Amazon listing. These are the screenshots from that first post. Isabel Starling on April 25th, so quite a while ago. Latest author caught out leaving AI prompts in her book. This one is called Cora and the Tower by Kate Sager. Not only does she not give a shit about her readers, but she throws her editor under the bus too, and she works as an editor on other authors' books. I would be pretty upset if I finally finished my manuscript, did everything I could to make it as good as possible, and then sent it to a developmental editor or whatever type of editing she does, and then found out later that they were giving all of my text to ChatGPT. Absolutely infuriating. So here we can see some screenshots from the ARC. These were the original screenshots shown. The thought was dangerous, reckless, but it stirred something in her chest, something raw, something aching, something that had been buried beneath Aurelian's light. I can enhance the scene to make D'Artagnan's marking of Cora with his spiderweb mark more visceral and dramatic. Here's a revised version. Yearning for a choice that was her own. Fine, she said, do it. Yeah, pretty blatant. We're going to look into the author's reaction to being called out for these AI prompts. So as you can see, most people, at least from that last post, were like, not the choice. But some people are defending her because it's just editing with AI. I mean, you're allowed to have whatever feelings you want about that. But what it comes down to is that the reviewer did their review of the book after its release and shared screenshots at that point. So even though it was an ARC, as far as I understand, there are no restrictions once the book's published. Apparently, the author, Kate Sager, did not agree with this because she went ahead and posted these screenshots of a cease and desist that she wrote on her phone, I guess. Subject, cease and desist, unauthorized sharing of Cora and the Tower. You were granted early access to my unpublished novel, Cora and the Tower, as a member of my ARC team. Prior to receiving this advanced copy, you acknowledged and agreed via written confirmation that you would not share, distribute, or publicly disclose any content from the book prior to its official release. Despite this, it has come to my attention that you have violated those terms by sharing pre-release content without my authorization. This action constitutes a breach of the agreement you accepted and an infringement on my copyright as the author and rights holder. Your breach has already caused demonstrable harm to my professional standing. Accordingly, I am demanding the following. Immediately cease and desist from posting, quoting, discussing, or distributing any portion of Cora and the Tower in any form, digital or physical. Remove all shared content from platforms, including but not limited to social media, group chats, or private communities. Confirm in writing within 72 hours that you have fully complied with these terms. If you fail to comply, I will be forced to pursue further legal action, including copyright enforcement and contractual remedies. This matter is currently being reviewed by my legal counsel, who's prepared to act on my behalf if necessary. I take the protection of my creative work extremely seriously. I trust you'll resolve this promptly. Sincerely, Catherine Sager, author and copyright holder of Cora and the Tower. Arguably, by you including AI written text in your work, it is not actually copyrightable. There was a case recently, I'll see if I can find the exact details about it, but I remember reading of it a week or two ago where an AI generated book was given a copyright, but as an object, essentially, like the entirety of it together as it stands is copyrightable. Individual portions of text are not. So if someone rearranged the chapters, they could publish it, essentially, is what it boiled down to. So a screenshot of your book does not qualify. This post is from the person who was the ARG reader that made the initial expose, I guess you could say, where she says, I'm reposting the info without the photos of the text for posterity. I'm also being harassed by fake accounts that are likely from the author and her fans, and she's now making legal threats against me for calling out her use of AI. In April 2025, I read the arc from Booksprout for Cora and the Tower by Kate Sager. There were 5 AI prompts that were left in the copy that several of the ARC readers received, including myself. You can check Goodreads for reviews by those other readers. There was 1 AI prompt in Chapter 12, 2 in Chapter 18, 1 in Chapter 19, and 1 in Chapter 20. The author is loud and proud of her AI use in her writing and editing, but I was unaware of that at the time when I picked up the ARC on Booksprout. My previous posts with photos of the AI prompts are now archived and not publicly available. This is the last post I will be making about this unless the harassment continues. Now that I know she has seen that I removed the images as requested, she's being blocked. Keep it up. You've been harassing me since April. I have screenshots of every single thing. Posting on social media and not tagging you isn't harassing you. I'm sorry. I don't know. Was Jag Warrior posting on all of your social media posts? Jag Warrior states that she did not sign an NDA. So Kate Sager's little cease and desist that she shared wouldn't hold any weight in that scenario. Basically, Jag Warrior mentions that Booksprout watermarks the books they send out, and it's not cool to share a reader's email, which it seems that Kate was doing. But Jag Warrior has emailed Booksprout and is hoping to hear back. And again, it just goes to show, you might be on your social media talking about how much you love AI and how you use it constantly, but readers don't want to read it. And by not having it in the marketing material, you are doing them and yourself a disservice. For better or worse, there are tons of people who don't care about whether something was written with AI that wouldn't even blink if they saw that in this person's marketing. The Brian Penny says, so sorry to hear this is happening to you. I just got caught up in everything, and this is obvious. She left prompts in the book because she didn't edit it. You are an ARC reader, not a beta reader. You honestly reviewed the book, and it was never your job to perform basic edits that she clearly failed to do. She has no case, and you clearly do. I've been seeing so many posts asking, what is the role of an ARC reader? Across threads, because apparently lots of authors now who are sending out ARCs are sending out these long convoluted agreements about, you'll tell me the errors in every chapter, I want the review first, etc. I don't have screenshots of those now, but I can probably dig them back up if y'all want me to. Which is insane. It's an advanced reader copy. It is to get reviews before publishing. If she wanted people to edit her book for her, she would get beta readers. An editor, but she uses ChatGPT, so clearly that's covering her bases. Julia's Little Library says, what's really funny is that you have an actual case for harassment while she has absolutely nothing. It's M. O'Hara says, I don't use AI in my writing. Post this. She's full of it. So Kate Sager had said, I don't use AI to write my books. Every scene, every sentence is mine. I've used AI to brainstorm when I'm stuck, like a digital sounding board, and the prompts in those sections were reminders in an early draft for me to rework it, not content meant for readers. But the prompts are literally ChatGPT responding, here, I rewrote it according to your specifications. So those aren't your words. Those aren't your words if ChatGPT took what you wrote and then spat out something completely different. I'm not sure why that's hard to understand. I could see the argument for developmental editing or whatever. Sure, you end up making the final content. Whether or not your world building is meaningful is irrelevant in that discussion. Most of my readers understand AI as a tool and use it daily themselves. It's not going anywhere. Most people use AI as a search engine. They don't use AI to make content and then sell it to people like it was something you made. If you want to be angry, that's your choice, but be angry about the truth, not the fiction you spun from your ivory soapbox. Obviously, she's mixing up 2 idioms, but that's just really funny. Jeff Kennedy, 2016. Ivory soapbox is an interesting mixed metaphor. I could say something snarky about a writer who makes that kind of error. If you don't get it, it's because the two big idioms are get off your soapbox, right? People used to stand on boxes, soapboxes, to talk above a crowd, kind of like using a podium, but they're normal people without podiums, so they used a box they had. Versus if you're in your ivory tower, it's kind of like being on a high horse. You think you're so much better than everyone else, and pure is the connotation. So I will say, if it was intentional, it's kind of funny because people are preaching at you and also thinking they're morally superior for not using AI, except for the fact that they are arguably morally superior for not selling content that was generated by a computer. Straight on photos posted. Also, I am noting your name, so I never share one of my books with you or your judgmental followers. You wouldn't like my books anyway. I use AI to edit it. Mysteries Book Snook says, don't worry, Brooke. You're not going to have to worry about anyone here wanting your book. Straight on photos. I know, my books have personality and a sense of humor. Mysteries Book Snooks. Because we all know that funny people are the ones that have to say they're funny. I mean, I agree. I don't know what it is. I'll see like ads for books and they talk about how funny it is, and then they include an excerpt that is not at all humorous. And sometimes I'm like, is it me? But sometimes I think it's hard to be a comedian, obviously, or everyone would be doing it. People generally think they're a lot funnier than they are. Ellen posted, I'm sorry, but the soft hummus of leaf and earth broke me. AI really failed you there, Kate. He pulled me down onto the pine needle carpet of the forest floor. The soft hummus of leaf and earth cushioned me as he loomed above me. That's terrible. I mean, even if this sentence wasn't written by AI and it was like a mistake on her part, which, you know, is also very likely, it just goes to show that there's no way she would have caught this kind of error if she couldn't even catch full-on paragraphs from ChatGPT. Since the AI bros don't want to believe this, the author's been caught leaving AI prompts in her final drafts, and she makes constant videos about how she uses AI to make and edit her books. She uses AI, there's no questions. I guess people are saying there's no way that AI would make that kind of mistake, but clearly if she's using AI to edit her books, it didn't catch that mistake either. When I was looking up information about this author, I found some more evidence of her being an editor. So S.L. McGinnis author posted, my artist is really slow, so the minute I hit the halfway point of writing, I go to her. I love her work though, so I refuse to find anyone else. My editor is on call and works faster than I do, so I call her whenever I'm ready. And Floor Decker asked, oh, love that. Who's your editor? And S.L. McGinnis responds, her name's Kate Sager. Amazing editor, and her prices are pretty comparable. She does payment plans as well if it's needed, but she finds every little spot you're missing something. I couldn't recommend anyone more. Yeah, because she's feeding your text that you actually took the time and mental energy to write straight into a genAI. Cool. French and Bookish says, Kate Sager needs a reality check. If I was an author and an ARC reader found AI prompts in one of my books, not only would I be mortified, but I would either try to salvage my brand and profusely apologize or just leave the internet. Attacking readers, bullying them, and being a mean girl in general only makes it worse, Kate. No one will read your books, and you certainly will never be taken seriously in this industry. It's okay if you can't write without AI. Not everyone is meant to be an author. That's crazy. So you can see down at the bottom, Jaguar had made another post proving that they had gotten an official ARC, because at one point, Kate was accusing them of pirating a copy of the book somehow. So Kate, after having all this blow up in her face about using AI and not supporting humans, went on to state that she spent $27,000 on art made by people. She spent $27,000 on art, supposedly. And you can see this comment, Mila B. author is responding to a post about that amount being spent. I've just had a gander and I wasn't impressed. Blocked her, obviously, but I don't see any money or creative sweat there. Also, who the fuck spends $27,000 on art when you have 2K followers? Am I looking at the right Kate Sager even? And Amelia writes, yes, that's the one. To be fair, I spent $12K on art last year, but it paid off for me. But it's all over my Instagram and I always tag the artists. So basically, Kate, to prove that she supports human artists, went on to Instagram and started posting the art that she has commissioned, essentially. So you can see she has that 2,000 followers, but all of these are memes. It's clear that she doesn't actively post all this art that she supposedly commissioned from people. Here's her post saying that she supports human artists. And I don't want to say anything bad about these artists, assuming that these were done by people, but there's no way I would spend $27,000 on this kind of art. At least we're starting to get into ones that look more like someone actually did everything, but a lot of them just look like they photoshopped a bunch of stock photos together, which I could do myself. I don't know. So we're up to 40 pictures in this post. I think there's 20 per post, so 60 photos. You got 60 pieces of art that you paid $27,000 for. That seems pretty wild, right? And it just, okay, a lot of these are like 3D renders, which personally, I would not want to pay for someone's 3D render because they didn't make it for me. And she just made all these weird posts after talking about her life and how it's everyone else's problem, essentially. But so let's look. $27,000 divided by 60 pictures that you could produce. That's $450 per artwork, assuming they were each standalone. Also assuming they all cost around the same amount, which I don't think so. There's no way. I would not have paid $400 for any of those. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too picky about what I think is good art, but if we keep going through her feed, you can see there's still no art. This is the banner of the person who first called her out. And she's convinced that it was AI when there's proof that this was made, I think in 2020, I think it said 2021, before Midjourney existed, essentially. So there's no way it was created with AI, given that's, as far as I understand, that's the program for making art with AI. But you can just see, if I spent almost $30,000, my Instagram would be full of that art. It looked like most of it was advertising materials. Let's take a look at her books on Goodreads just to see. Dang, looks like she has a lot. It looks like a lot of that art she was posting were just her book covers, which you spent $27,000 on these book covers. That, I don't know. It just looks like clip art that they slapped together. You're telling me you paid on average $500 for this? 2025, so January of this year. Again, clip art, to each their own. I would be pretty upset if I was sent this back after paying $500. $200 at most, maybe? This is just so hard to understand visually. I'm human. I feel defensive when people call me out about stuff I'm wrong on, but to immediately turn it into, I'm suing you for telling people I did something that I actually did. There's no case for defamation. It's not slander. You did it and you made a mistake and now people know. I'm going to show you an example now of how most people who I think it just goes to show that Kate maybe feels guilty about using AI, even though she's so vocal about it. Because here's someone who has a much better response to a similar situation. Red Pen Rebel posted on Threads. Her message is directed to Lunar Literary Agency. If your stance on AI-generated content is truly as firm as stated, how do you justify one of your represented authors, Brittany Gosson, selling AI-generated artwork at the Imaginarium Book Festival? Her Amazon author profile features several journals showcasing AI art positioned alongside the books you represent. This inconsistency raises questions about the integrity of your stated values. So I guess I see where they're coming from, that they contacted the journal or the agency first. Because if they believe that this author is using AI-generated art with their full chest, you would want to confront the agency that actually has a anti-AI policy stated. But you can see that Brittany responds almost immediately. Thank you for letting me know as well. I got the art from a dear friend and didn't know they used AI. Thank you so much for letting me know. I've since taken them down from Amazon and my website and will refund anyone who purchased one. I'm so incredibly embarrassed, especially since I'm also very anti-AI and I realize this is an awful look. I'm so sorry this happened. Since I've learned so much about AI and never considered these were that. I just trusted a friend. Which, that is really unfortunate. If you don't know what you're looking for, how are you supposed to know? That was kind of like my main thing with the AI books conversation we had last week. At least with art, there are some tells, but they're getting harder and harder to see. They're often not there. With writing, there are no tells. There was a comment saying if you can't tell it was written by AI, you have bad taste in books. But that's kind of the problem. There are bad books. I might just not like a particular plot and think it's boring and generic, when in reality, tons of people love it. You can't use personal taste as a marker for whether or not something is fake or not, if that makes any sense. I totally understand being defensive and having a knee-jerk negative reaction to being accused of something, but To keep running with it is an interesting choice. And then to try and back yourself up with evidence that is a completely different topic, honestly. And then telling on yourself when your evidence doesn't actually show up through your feed. Obviously, Instagram is allowed to be whatever you want it to be, but I think the majority of bookish pages tend to be pretty curated on the book content front. Typically, your Instagram is supposed to be a cute, curated feed, and the TikTok is more storytelling, day in the life type stuff. Twitter is all your unhinged thoughts. Her Instagram looks like how Instagram looked when it first came out. When Instagram first came out, people were posting whatever they wanted. Weird bathroom selfies, all that sort of stuff, memes, constantly. So it's just an interesting choice that the art platform, she isn't using it how the majority of people in her position would be using it for advertising. But that's just me. I don't know. How do you think Kate should have reacted? Do you think Jag Warrior was wrong for calling her out in the first place? Let me know down in the comments below. Well, hope you had some fun listening to me ramble. I will see you in the next one.